Welcome to Uncaged. Today we're speaking with Bharath Bangalore. Now, Bharath is the founder, and I think we're going to have to ask lots of questions about this. The number one robot at Blue Ocean Strategic Partners. Blue Ocean Strategic Partners is really a business that does a wide variety of things, but it's focused on digital automation, on democratizing process automation. Bharath, tell us a little bit about you and your career.
Thank you, Ben. It's such a pleasure. I appreciate the opportunity to get on your podcast and the opportunity to speak about what I do. My background, actually, believe it or not, I used to be in the restaurant space. So
Wow.
I had a couple of transitions in my career. Realized that once you're in the restaurant space, it's going to be very hard to have a family work-life balance because you're always working when everyone's enjoying. So I had great mentors that helped me pivot from sort of the operations into accounting. So you went to UConn. The Huskies won the national championship.
Congratulations! Yeah,
thank you. So proud grad of UConn. Had a fantastic time. I thought I was going to retire in Connecticut until I saw the other parts of the country, but it's such a great state.
Yeah.
The cold is a tough one. And I switched my career into finance and operations and sort of accounting. Did the first bulk of my career with Ritz-Carlton / Marriott hotels.
Oh,
Great foundation it was. And then worked on a small little independent companies and then jumped to the next 8 years with a group called the Peninsula Hotels. They're out of Hong Kong.
Mm-hmm.
I think a few years ago, they celebrated 150 years of the great, excellent, long tradition of hospitality. And so far, I honed my skills in sort of these two large companies. And then I used to be and did the second sort of shift in my career. I realized that I was bored at work, so to speak. I'd gotten down sort of the process of accounting closed down to a science. We used to close the books in one business day when most companies still have a best in practice of 4, 5, 10 business days. And my question was, what next? How do you improve upon that one business day? And the second is, sort of the seminal moment was my your oldest son, who was 8, this was a few years ago, asked me, what do I do? And I tried to explain to him that, hey, listen, it was in accounting, it was like finance, right? So I said, how do I get it down to an 8-year-old? And I said, I count money, which is, I try to get it as close as possible.
I love it.
And he looked at me and said, that's so boring. I was like, oh, thanks, pal.
Well, I mean, I'll tell you, it's about as good of a reaction as you can hope for. I remember when I took my younger son, when he was still young, to my office one day, and at the time I was running one of these kind of cool kid digital advertising agencies, and he came to the office, and at the time all the kids were playing with Nerf guns. All the employees were obsessed with
you're the cool dad.
The Nerf stuff. So he obviously gravitated to that when he was in the office with me. And I had to be in a parent-teacher meeting where the teacher asked him and said, Nico, what does your father do? And he said, well, Miss Smith, he plays with Nerf guns all day. So there you go.
Well, you got the cool attitude, so that was fantastic.
I mean, Bharath, it's a great story, and I tell you, I'm glad that you got out of the restaurant business. That's a tough industry.
It is.
And I really love the background of experience that you have. And now you're really focused on this area of process automation. Is that why you use the number one robot language here?
Correct, because I look at those work, and one of the other taglines I use of the company is we take the robot out of the human, because fundamentally, especially if you look at sort of the back of the house processes in any organization, and accounting is sort of the top of the list, there are so many tasks that are just robotic in place. There's an SOP, you follow the SOP. And when somebody new comes on board, you basically throw the SOP at them, say, get into the closet, and don't call me.
Yeah.
You just continue, follow the list. And which I had young kids coming out of college telling me, oh my God, I went to college and wanted me to do this, which is so boring and mind numbing. And so that's where I realized, that in sort of the last probably 5 to 8 years, especially around 2020, sort of all this tool stack came around ready for prime time, where we can actually automate significant portions of the day-to-day work.
Mhm.
And that was my joy. I look at a sequence and I can say, okay, how do we get from A to B in the fastest possible way? And so financial close, I looked at it and I said, okay, how do we what's the least amount of time we can take to close the books?
Well, I mean, if you're closing books in less than a day, Bharath, I think I might have to hire you. That's pretty impressive stuff. But it
Thank you.
sounds like you're finding benefits not only in the financial closing, but in areas like customer service. What are you finding right now that customers are really looking to you and your team to assist them with?
Well, you know the sort of the larger demographic change that's happening in the country with the baby boomers, getting
Yeah.
ready to retire. And that generational shift is creating this vacuum in the workspace where there's not a one-to-one replacement of people as people leave, people coming on board. And with the unemployment being so low, that's the other reason as well, because a whole bunch of baby boomers said, after COVID, I'm done, thank you very much, have a nice day. So we can't find enough people. So where I find great success is people are looking to find innovation to help them get ahead, which, believe it or not, and that's why I'm focusing on the small and medium space, because the larger companies are being serviced by Accentures of the world, the big names, so to speak, are already taking care, caring of the big companies. But the small and medium companies, which were the foundation backbone of this country, did not have anyone to support them. And that's why I wanted to democratize this technology and get it down to the level where, I have an insurance client. He spends, in his team, I should say, they spend, an inordinate amount of time putting data from, place to A to B to C, instead of focusing their time on trying to understand their client and seeing how do I service their insurance needs better.
Right.
Now, this just one company, they have about 7, 8 people in their office. We gave them 30 days back a year.
Wow.
So you can imagine that's, a whole month back. So now they're working on a 13-month schedule rather than a 12-month schedule. So it's phenomenal that it's the ability to give time back. That's where I'm spending, a lot of joy and actually have fun executing on.
Yeah, I mean, finding those efficiencies is going to be absolutely critical. And certainly, I think actually perhaps a broader effect here, which is this automation is happening. It's going to happen no matter what. And so making sure that you actually support those companies in that process to understand how they should operate, right? I mean, I worked a couple of years ago on a thesis, and one of the things that came out in the research was that there were a lot of people very fearful of machine learning and what it would do to business. And there were an equal number of people very excited about it. But what they had not really gotten to was, how is that going to actually impact the operation? How are we going to rebuild the operation so that people have meaningful structures and work? And listening to you talk about the work that you're doing, I feel like you're helping businesses get to that.
Thank you. I appreciate. You're absolutely right. And then there's, unfortunately, the larger media has done a poor job of explaining what I call the art of the possible. And to your point, you're absolutely right. Once the cat is out of the bag, you can't push it back in, right? It's cat bag doesn't, they don't mix together, so to speak. So this is coming nonetheless. And so I'm trying to help the smaller companies navigate this. And it's almost, the tool stack is almost like Lego bricks, where it can be built up slowly. And it's rather than this behemoth application one needs to build, it's a slow process. So I tell people, go slow. Don't go for the $1 million project. Start small, get familiar. And so almost a transition where you have these sort of manual processes have to go down and automated processes have to go up over time. So people get acclimated and actually can adjust to the new work environment, so to speak.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Well, Bharath, I mean, I can see that you have had a career where you've helped businesses be better businesses, find efficiencies, and you understand the nature of business. But let me ask that question, which is, what's behind all of this? What gets you up in the morning and drives that passion to keep building Blue Ocean Strategic Partners?
A couple of things. One was definitely the reaction I got from my son. Like, wait a minute, I need to be you, Brad. I want him to say, "Oh, my dad is cool," and that's it. Oh, this guy is
I
counting.
don't know if he said I was cool. I think he was like, my dad doesn't do anything. He just plays with Nerf guns.
Well, yeah, true. But I'm sure he had a lot of admiration. So one was that. It's just like, I was like, where's the meaning in this, right? How do I make sense of what's happening, the changing landscape? And the second is, I truly believe a lot of these jobs that we are out there should not exist because people hate what they do. I hated it when I was 20 years ago, but generationally, we just sucked it up. We said, hey.
Yeah, I love that. And it's a really interesting topic because when we think about those boring jobs that you're talking about, you're absolutely right. My generation had to do those jobs. You sucked it up. You did it. You learned. If you were good and you worked hard, you might move up and up and up. But what do we do in a world now where all those jobs might get automated? How do we train those young people, to understand how to integrate them? I mean, that to me is it's something I've been trying to get my head around because in some ways, this kind of more automated world is amazing for veterans. It's amazing for older people because, people that have experience can make all those synaptic completions, right?
Correct.
Whereas the younger person doesn't even know what they don't know, right? So how are we going to educate them?
I am actually optimistic on this, actually, and you're right. I mean, and again, this is a personal view. I look at it because it's not it's very hard to estimate. But I believe that for this, especially the new generation coming into the workspace, they are digital first. You and I still remember the day we had color TV. We still remember the big box, the boob tube, as we call it. So we've been through these transitions, right? We know the first day we got the cell phone. All those things are imprinted in us.
It's funny that you said that. I think you're absolutely right. There may be that the older generations, while they have knowledge, there's kind of perhaps even like a desire not to change, just probably to keep it going. And there's a curiosity that comes for the earlier generations. But I'm very excited to explore how we train them, to embrace that role where they don't have to sweat for a couple of years doing all those horrible jobs, and we can build it up more efficiently. It's really, really exciting. Well, I mean, here, Bharath, I mean, we are in 2023. I mean, this is a year where we've seen a lot of machine learning work, I'd say, kind of meet a commercial exciting audience for the first time, really.
Absolutely.
In things like ChatGPT and maybe to a lesser extent Bard. And tell me a little bit about what you think is on the docket for this year.
In the short run, especially when I saw the seminal shift from GPT-3 to GPT-4, just that itself in 6 months, 9 months is a long time for this kind of technology.
Yeah.
So to your point, on the earlier point, I'm a little, what is the word, nervous maybe for the disruption that's going to cause, because in the short run, change is going to cause disruption, but in the long run, it all balances out. So my only fear is in the short run, maybe especially based on the letter that Elon Musk and his crew sent saying to slow down on the AI stuff. There's enough concern. There's probably a bit of disruption will happen, but I believe, like anything on transition, changes is constant.
Yeah.
And cycles, we have to go through the cycle. So I believe that probably 23 and 24 are those disruption phases of the cycle.
Yeah.
Before it all settles in.
Yeah, no, I can see that. And I think that some of the areas that you have focused on are amazing use cases, and I can see how they're going to get more automated, more efficient, more streamlined going forward. I mean, Bharath, if someone wanted to learn more about what you and the Blue Ocean Strategic Partnership team are doing, where's the best place to reach you?
The best is definitely start up on a website. It is blueoceansp.ai is our website. Or, and yeah, actually, that's probably the best place. And then the contact through that, just get connected with us. And we'd love to have a chat and sort of help them get onto this platform of not with us, just technology, and take advantage of what's out there.
Yeah, and I think that's really what I'm taking away from this conversation. And we've been speaking with Bharath Bangalore. He is the founder and #1 robot at Blue Ocean Strategic Partners. And it's really helping companies and really understand where they can find efficiencies, but actually build that pathway to get there, and then to really make sure that it's structured in a way to continue to build and scale going forward. Bharath, thank you so much for being on the Uncaged show. We look forward to having you back.
Appreciate it. Thank you for the time. Truly, it was a joy speaking with you, Brad.
Absolutely. Cheers.
Yes.